Bonjour guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm interviewing a student who passed his FE exam a while back in January, but I never really had the chance to edit and post the video. Due to COVID-19, I know a lot of you are working from home, so you have all this extra time that you can spend studying and preparing for your FE exam. So I thought this would be a good time to share this video with you guys, and hopefully you can get some tips on how to study for the exam, what material to use, how to stay consistent, and all that. Now, before we start the interview, don't forget to subscribe and make sure you hit the bell so you get notified each time I release new videos. Now let's get right to it. Bonjour guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm joined by Tushar. Tushar recently took his FE exam and he passed it after a few attempts. So in this video, he's going to share with us his experience. He's going to talk about his scheduling, his preparation, and what did he do this time that he was able to pass his FE exam. Tushar, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to do this.
Great. So let's start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself. When did you graduate and what was your major?
Yeah, so I graduated December of 2018 from the University of Connecticut, and I actually took an extra semester to finish up my engineering courses. That's why it was in December, and I majored in civil engineering, but I was like undecided in the beginning, and like I was like all different sorts of engineering, but I finally decided to do civil.
So what made you decide on civil? What did you like about civil engineering?
Well, I kind of like fell into it really. So in
Okay.
the beginning, I was undecided engineering. Then I tried chemical. It was like way too hard in my opinion. And I did environmental, a lot of chemistry. But then I realized that I always liked transportation for some reason, like cars and how cars move about. Like not cars themselves, but just like the road networks. It always fascinated me. So civil, I saw the curriculum and it offered a broader range of subjects and transportation was something I could focus in on. So that's why I decided to do that.
Cool. Do you work now in the field of transportation?
Yeah, I'm actually a transportation engineer. Yeah, I've been working full time for now for about a year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you told me before that you took your FE exam twice or three times total. You just found out on Wednesday that you passed your FE
Yeah.
exam. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you. Now, the first two times that you took it, when was that?
So I told you I graduated December, so it was like December 14th, and I thought, I've always heard take it as soon as you can. So I took it. I was like, I'm just gonna like study for like 2 weeks, and I'm gonna finish it up within December. So took it at like the last weekend of December, and I was studying. I was studying pretty hard, like here and there, and I took it and I like bombed it. And then I took second time I took it was around March. Took it around March, and I wanted to do it like pretty soon because my start date for work was around February, and I was like, I just want to get it done with when it's just fresh in my mind. And before I go on vacation, I was traveling to Europe in March. So I was like, before I do that, I just want to get it over with. Study some more, still didn't pass. And then the third time I took it was, this past like December, exactly 1 year after the first time I took it. And thankfully I passed this time around.
Yeah. So first time you took it was December, and then the time you passed was December. That was
Yeah,
interesting.
1 year.
And so the first time you took it, you studied only 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? And then the second time, how many months would you say you studied for it?
I would say really like a month and a half, like two if I'm really stretching it, but probably a month and a half. And I took it the week before I left to like Europe.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And where did you go in Europe?
It was a really fun trip. It was a week-long trip. I went to Barcelona, Prague, and Budapest.
Oh, nice. What was
Yeah.
your favorite city?
They all had their own perks, but I would say my favorite overall was if I wasn't dead tired by the end of the trip, it would have been Budapest, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
That's
by that time, I was very tired.
yeah. I mean, visiting three cities in 1 week is that what you said?
With a whole bunch of friends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Why did you decide to take the FE? Was it a requirement by your job?
So I took the FE because in my head, I've always thought every civil engineer has to take that, just because I feel like our field requires it so much because we're in consulting most of the time. Um, so that was always my motivation. In my head, I was like, there's no other reason not to take it. I have to take it. So that was a big motivation factor. And my job, like they obviously wanted me to take it. They always want to see you pursuing bigger things in the future, because eventually I have to take my PE, and that's when you're really valuable to the company. So they would ask me here and there, hey, like, how's your FE exam studying going? And yeah, so that was a motivating factor for me, just to get it done as soon as possible after college.
Cool. And so in college, what kind of student were you?
I was all over the place, to be honest. Uh, like in the beginning, I went to like a regional campus for UConn, and it was kind of it was easy. It was easier in a sense because the classes were smaller, so it was better. But then I went to the main campus, and stuff really picked up, and like my grades reflected on that, and it wasn't the best, but I finished really strong though. My senior year and like my super senior year, I took a lot of engineering classes, and I just went to the library like every day, studied, and I was able to pass like really well.
Good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't really too involved in clubs or anything, I would say. Probably like the what do you call it, ASC, I
Mhm.
believe. I was in that a little bit. Didn't really have time when I wanted to get really involved. I didn't have too much time because I was taking so many classes.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just had to get a good GPA to bump my GPA up and finish strong, which I'm glad I did. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to kind of get good grades and at the same time be involved in those clubs. It's really hard to balance the two,
yeah,
especially like in your senior year or even like before that, when the classes or when you start taking engineering classes and the classes starts getting a little harder, when you
mm,
take like concrete, steel, foundation and stuff, it gets a little bit tough to be involved in other activities and be able to get good grade or just really like understand the material. Okay, cool. Now let's jump into scheduling. How many months before the FE exam did you start studying for your the last one that you took?
so after the second time I failed, I
Okay.
took a few months break
Mm-hmm.
because I was just so down of failing.
Yeah.
And I really started because I was traveling a little bit here and there, and I scheduled my exam in August,
Okay.
and I think I really started to like study in September time. October I studied a lot. November I studied a good amount, and then December was my test.
Okay. And I remember you scheduled it before December and then you postponed it or something like that, right?
I actually had scheduled it for Thanksgiving. Like it was around Thanksgiving break,
Right?
a week
Yeah.
before then. But then I rescheduled it actually because I was like, I'm just not ready for some reason. I just don't feel ready, and
Yeah.
I rescheduled it to December. Yep.
Yeah. Now,
That-
on average, how many hours did you study per week?
So I would say in the beginning, like August, September, I would study probably an hour and a half a day, and
Okay.
then weekends I would do a lot more. But then I got worried that I didn't know enough, and I didn't want to fail the third time. So in October, October-ish, I picked up the pace like big time.
Okay.
I was studying. I mean, it might sound crazy, but I was really studying like 40 hours a week sometimes, and like 50 hours a week. I was just finding any time in the day to like squeeze it in. And but then I noticed that I was burning out a little after like 3 weeks of that, and I had to really tone it down and study probably like an hour, 2 hours a day, and weekends do the same thing, and that kept me going and like finish strong to pass my exam.
I'm glad you kind of brought that up. A lot of times students will start studying really hard at the beginning, and what happens is they burn out and then they lack motivation and then they just don't feel like studying for the exam anymore, and that can really affect their performance. And then you stop studying for like a couple of weeks, and that's not good because now you left this huge gap in between the period of your studying, and
Yeah.
that's when you're going to start studying, you're going to have to kind of start that momentum again and then try to remember all the material you learned. So instead of going really hard, just stay consistent, steady like an hour, 2 hours a day, increase that time during the weekend, and just keep that pace till your FE exam.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now the week before your FE exam or a couple weeks before your test, did you increase that time?
You know how you said that like most students just like, burn themselves out because they're doing too much. I kind of think I kind of had like a opposite approach in a way where I studied a lot in the beginning, like so
Okay.
much. And then I like went less and less and less and less
I see.
towards my exam. Like uh, t- before like a week or two, I was probably studying an hour a day, hour and a half, like 2 hours a day. I was being like nicer, like kinder to myself, to not to like beat myself up for not studying as much. And then really like go into concepts like, am I really understanding this, or am I just doing problems for problem's sake? And that was like a changing point in my in how I studied.
Huh,
Yeah.
that's actually really interesting. And I kind of like that too, I think, because you, instead of burning yourself out right before the exam, you kind of did that at the beginning a little bit. And
Yeah.
then were more relaxed because maybe you felt that you covered most of the material, and now it was time to just kind of try to really understand the material that you covered and just kind of review and take it easy till the day of your exam.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
That's great. Well, it seems like it works, right? Because you passed your exam.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, cool. Now, the next thing I was hoping we could talk about is your preparation. Now, I know you talked about this a little bit earlier, but just run us through a typical week of studying for your exam.
Yeah. So a typical week would be I go to work, and then I come back and try to. So I used to like couple of resources to study, and I would just go about the day doing as many problems as I can and making sure I know which ones like I'm getting wrong so that I can do them in the weekend for the future and really understand those concepts and problems, because I noticed from the first two exams that I was underestimating the exam. Like there were things that I didn't know and it showed, like I didn't know in college and it showed in the exam, like, wow, zero force, I'm not good with that. A horizontal curve, vertical curve, I never mastered that in college. So I was forced to learn those concepts again, and I focused a lot on my weaknesses
Mhm.
the third time around.
I see. Okay, cool. And then so let's go back a little bit to your scheduling. So you would go to work and then after that you would get home, you would study for a couple hours, like 2 or 3 hours a day.
What worked best for me is I slept early, woke up, studied for a couple hours in the morning, actually, before work, went to work, came back, and then studied some more, like 2, 3 hours. Then I slept. So it was like like constant. I would that was like my crazy 3 week period.
Okay.
And then I toned it down where I was only doing one session of those. Like it would either be in the morning or afternoon or in the evening. It was
Okay.
the best balance, I noticed.
Okay. And so you would study in the morning because it seems like you are a morning person. Is that why you would do that?
I wouldn't really say I'm morning and I can do anything.
Okay.
I was just experimenting with what
I
would
see.
work best, and I noticed in the morning it's so early in the morning. You have no distractions, and you can just do anything that you want. And then if you're wasting time in the morning, you just look like you just think you just look like a fool because it's so early. Like you'd rather be sleeping than wasting time. So that's the one less distractions. There's no one texting you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits to it. And then you just start your day off on such a great note. Like you already did studying. So after your work, if you come late, then you can just relax if you want because you already did the hardest part in the morning.
That's
You know?
true. Yeah, it's such a like a great motivation. Like you wake up, you're like, wow, I studied like for 3 hours. That's awesome. Like you just
Yeah,
feel good about it throughout the day, really. Yeah.
yeah,
So let's dive into the material. So this one is huge because I think it's really important that people are studying the right material because if you study the wrong material, you're not going to pass. And so, but people really struggle with this one because they're not sure what to use, what kind of books to use, or what kind of courses they need to get. So maybe tell us a little bit about the material that you used before, like the first two attempts that you tried to take the FE exam, and why those materials didn't help, and what did you change the third time, and what material really helped you pass your exam.
yeah. Sure. So let me think a little. So the first time I took the exam, I actually borrowed the NCEE.
NCS practice exam,
Yeah,
the
the
white
NCAA
one.
practice exam. Yeah, he had it, so I just borrowed it from him, and I did a whole bunch of those problems. And then I also used Marshall University. their videos online. I made sure that I was doing those. Those are really good resources. But I guess you know what you're doing because you're just like following along with them.
Mm.
But then when you're like when you're shown the exam on the with a problem on the exam, then you're not really perfect this concept. So those are still good resources. Then the second time, I was really watching your videos a lot, like on YouTube,
Mhm.
because that's when you had I think you messaged me on LinkedIn
Mhm.
about your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah,
So I was like, wow, this YouTube channel is like amazing. I mean, it was only like a few videos by then, like maybe 10, 20 videos.
yeah,
And
that's true.
I just watched a lot of those videos, and I remember in my head I'm thinking like, wow, if I found this like a like when there was a lot of videos, I probably would have passed like the second time around even.
Mhm.
But I watched a lot of your videos and still did and then I got this book, this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got this one. I was like, you know what? People are saying that this is a good book. Let me do all the problems. And yeah, I was doing these problems too. But then I noticed that they were really hard. Like some of them were really hard. Some of them weren't on the manual.
Mm.
You couldn't solve them. So that was like tripping me up a little bit.
Mm.
But I still powered through. And then the third time is when that third time is when I think you were releasing your courses.
Mhm. Yes,
So
that's right.
the first one that you released was the statics course.
Mhm.
And I got that, and that really helped, like doing, like just figuring out like zero force members. Like that was
Mhm.
like a key thing you need to know for the exam. And then we did our like session, like that really helped.
Yeah.
Really like cementing zero force members.
Mhm.
The Methodist section. The biggest reason I got that because is I wanted to perfect my movement of inertia and centroid
Mm.
problems because I remembered I got a lot of those problems. I wanted to perfect those. So that course really helped me learn those concepts. And then I think what really did it for me, and I'm so glad that I got it at the time I got it, it was the morning budge course.
Yeah.
And because I noticed after reading a lot of things on Reddit and things like that, morning session is when you can get the most points.
Mhm.
And I think that's what people don't realize. Like you can literally not get any of the, well, you should get the stuff right on the second part, but if you get a lot right on the first half, then you're in a really good position. So your course did exactly that. It was up to date. It was a lot of conceptual based problems, and yeah, that's really one of the big reasons I think I passed the third time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. No problem. I'm really happy it helped. I mean, like, like I try to stay updated with the FE exam, and also just because I just took my FE exam recently, so I know what kind of material they cover and stuff. And it's kind of easy to know what's on the exam if you just follow what's on the reference handbook. Like you mentioned, if you go back to the Linderbrook book that you have, the practice exam, the problem with that book is that it's good sometimes to do the hard problems, but if you don't have enough time and you just want to pass this FE exam, you don't want to spend too much time solving the hard problems that's not even going to be on your exam.
Yeah.
And then those easy problems are not probably going to be in your exam either, because some of the material is irrelevant, or they have some equations and you spend time looking for it on the reference manual and it's not there. And then you go, do I need to worry about this equation? Do I need to remember it? And so there's so many like unknowns and you're not sure, and that can be a waste of time, and it can also be discouraging. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I think with the courses, it kind of helps you, it guides you of exactly what you need to focus on, and that just kind of gives you like a peace of mind, I guess. And then also, like you mentioned, focusing in the morning topics, it's important, or just kind of try to get as many points in the morning because they're easier than the afternoon session. You can easily
Yes.
get those points because the afternoon session, especially like if you're taking civil or mechanical, they really dive into the discipline, and those can be tricky and can be long as well. So
Yes.
the morning session, I agree. Like if you focus in the morning session and you really like focus on your weaknesses, that's another thing that you mentioned, is that this time around you were honest with yourself and you were like, okay, what are my weaknesses? And I need to work on them. That's it. So I think that also helped. So now let's go back to the questions. Was there any particular place that you like to study, like a cafe or a library?
Yeah, I tried everything: universities, library, my local library, and I think the best place for me was just at home because it's just my surroundings, and I can pretty much do whatever I want. Well, I can, if I want to take a break, I can take a break. If I want food, I can get it. But sometimes that can be bad too. I understand. But if you just discipline yourself for 2, 3 hours, like don't do anything, just sit at your desk, then it's really a good place to study. But so some people they can't, and then you should go to a library in that case.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. For me, it's like when I feel a little bit discouraged or I'm lacking motivation, which happens because not all the time you feel like studying. I usually
Mhm.
go to a cafe, and that environment a little bit helps me just get into that mindset of like studying just motivates me a little bit, and then I head home and then I keep studying. So, but
Yeah,
in general, I do prefer working or studying at home. It's just I feel more focused, there are less distraction, less noise and stuff like that. So but it just depends on the person, I guess. Now,
yeah.
do you feel like your undergrad classes prepared you well for the FE exam?
I think they did, in a sense where when I was like relearning the subjects, I kind of remembered, oh, like this is what I learned in this class, or just so it came back to me in one when I was studying, which is really cool because at the end of it, but by the end of it, I was like, I'm smarter now than I was in college because everything is coming as one, and yeah, it was really good. Some courses really helped, but then there were some subjects where I feel like some stuff wasn't covered.
Were there any questions on the FE exam that was not covered by any of your school classes?
I think probably like construction. It was some
Okay.
like I think they're making it a focus at UConn now, more of a focus. But when I was taking it, I don't think there was too much construction related courses for my civil
Okay.
engineering. I think materials could have been a little bit better, but I still was able to grasp the material concepts
Okay.
after like doing your course. But other than that, I think they did a good job at teaching what you need to know.
Okay, cool. Okay, now let's discuss a little bit of your study techniques. I think this one is important because it just kind of helps because everybody has a different study techniques, and so maybe your study technique can help someone else if they implement it, help them, pass and study their FE exam. So
Yeah.
now, are there any study habits that you found not to be effective during your studying, like either first time or the third time?
I think I was actually doing stuff pretty well. Like I was doing stuff that you're supposed to do. Like when you're watching a video, don't look at the answer. Like challenge yourself before you do it. Do a certain amount of hours a day. I think the thing I would change though is in the beginning, I just wanted to get this over with. So
Mm,
I was kind of like just trying to do as fast as I can, and my problems were like all over the place. But yeah, I think that I should have been more focused on what I was trying to learn. Like if there was a subject in math that I was weak in, then just go into that for one day or even 2 days and just try to perfect that rather than jumping all over the place in geotechnical and transportation. Just focus on one thing at a time, conquer that, and then move on.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. So a lot of times you just focus so much on I just want to get this over with. I just want to pass this exam. And you forget to just kind of be in the present. What do I need to do now so I can move forward? Can I make it much easier and more efficient, like having organized notes, being consistent, enjoying the learning process? Because if you try to rush it, you're not going to enjoy it and you're going to burn out and you're going to try to cram it all in like 2 or 3 weeks, and then and you're gonna lack motivation and there's that whole cycle again. So having that mindset, I really like that. Try to really write down your weaknesses, try to focus on your weaknesses, be organized, go from one topic to another, don't jump from one topic to the other one, and yeah, and just kind of sit and just try to focus and enjoy it instead of trying to rush it. You're spending that time learning anyways, you have to do it anyways, might as well just enjoy it, right?
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Okay, cool. So, did you make any changes to your study habits or materials between the times you failed the exam versus the time you passed?
Yeah, the biggest change that I made was we kind of touched on it was instead of jumping from topic to topic, I realized that, you know, morning session is when I can get the most points in. So I printed out like, the topics that they have, and I was just highlighting each one like in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna perfect this, and I'm not gonna move on to the next one until I perfect mathematics. Like that seems like such a basic subject, but there's so many questions. And I think we underestimate that section a lot. So I was like, do I know my integrals? Do I know my derivatives? Like back to base one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just went then after mathematics, I went to probability and stats. Like, do I really know everything that they're saying in the ABCD of the basics of probability and statistics? Then on to ethics, econ, statics, and then by that time, you have a really good foundation of the beginning, and you know that you know every subject good before moving on to the next one. So that's the biggest thing I changed.
Yeah. And I think also just knowing that, hey, I just completed math and I'm really good and confident with that subject, that just kind of gives you the confidence to keep going or motivates you like, yay, I just finished math. I want to move on to the next topic, and just kind of helps you to keep going. You're like in this momentum, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Like when you're just spread out, that you just feel like your energy is all over the place, and you're not perfect in one thing. If someone were to ask like, "What are you really good at on this exam?" then now you have a whole list of things to say once you focus on one subject at a time.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Now, was there anything specific that you did that helped you stay motivated while studying for the FE exam? See, a lot of students really struggle with this one. In fact, I actually just posted something yesterday on Instagram, and a lot of people responded that the biggest thing is motivation. They're having a hard time finding motivation to study, especially over the weekends, because that's when you have free time, right? That's when you go, okay, this weekend I'm going to take advantage of this time and I'm just going to sit down and study. But then the weekend comes and you have no motivation. So was there anything, did you struggle with that? And what did you do to overcome that?
Man, like this was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And yeah, every day, like when you're done with college, you're thinking, oh, I don't have to study
Mhm.
anymore. I'm done. That was so hard. But then this is the hardest exam that you're gonna come across now. Then you have to pass it. It was it was like soul sucking, to be honest. And then you're going to work on top of that, and then coming home. So really, it's almost like you're working 15-hour days, 16-hour days, because you're doing stuff like the same thing over and over again. Like my motivation really based off like it was like I was just like having a lot of anxiety, like not passing this exam, and
Okay.
I just put on myself like, you have to pass this exam, or else like who knows, your job might not like you, or you're just not good enough to be an engineer. It was like things like that. Really, it's probably not healthy to think like that, but
Yeah. I was
but
gonna say.
but that's what I don't know, pushes me sometimes. And then the other thing was just like, no, like I passed college. Like I know I can do this exam. I know if I just like buckle down and do all these concepts one by one, I can do it. And it was just like just proving to myself like I can do it. But it was really hard. Like after college class, I was like, I just want to follow some of my passions on the side, and I still was like. I think a good thing to do when you're studying is take breaks here and there. Definitely, like when you're in the weekend, like definitely do one or two things, but just get back to studying, because the sooner you're done with it, the better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go back to what you said a little bit. Just talk about like, so you would do negative thoughts and positive thoughts. So you had
yeah,
kind of both, and that you kind of were able to balance it. So one, you kind of tried to push yourself under the pressure to really kind of, you told yourself, I have to do this. Like there's no other choices. I have to pass this exam, and
yeah.
that kind of sometimes helped you to motivate you. And
Mhm.
then some other times you had the positive thoughts, and that helped as well. So it just depends, I guess, on the timing and the mood you're in. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess it works, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to put pressure on yourself, because
Yeah.
if you don't, then you're just gonna get comfortable and not want to study. Like you have to have a little bit of fear to study,
Yeah.
and fear can motivate you a lot sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. You know how sometimes they say, "Oh, it's not good to stress and stuff." Sometimes stress is good. If you stress
Oh
yourself,
yeah,
pressure yourself, it's actually good. It's gonna push you. It's gonna and get you out of your comfort zone, and you're gonna have to study and stuff. So just find that whatever that motivation that's going to work for you to just keep you going. I guess that's what. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people need. Yeah. Um.
because
Now.
yeah, I feel like a lot of times it's just all like, oh, you know, it was fine, like studying. Like no one talks about like, no, it was
Yeah.
hard. Like I had to
Yeah.
push myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people would just go like, "Yeah, I studied a little bit and I passed." But when I actually interview students, they're very honest and like they've all said like, I've actually studied really hard, or or like you said, I've started studying really hard and then I took it down a little bit because I was burning out. But a lot of people usually generally are honest.
No, yeah, well, that's the thing too. I think I emailed you like when I first signed up for your
Hmm.
problems. That's a huge pet peeve of mine when like people, like there's some people that probably just did it with no studying, but
Hmm.
when people just act like they haven't studied that much and, oh, I just passed, I just took it and I passed, that really got under my skin because I'm here studying so hard and I'm not passing, and like you're doing the opposite. But it was just me like getting over that and saying, no, like I do have to study for this and it's fine to study, and yeah, let's just get this done with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember when you emailed me that, and like I told you, like first try not to compare yourself to others. I think that sometimes can really put us down, and it's just not really healthy. Unless if you're using it as a motivation, then it's great. And then also like there's nothing wrong with studying. In fact, I think it's great that people are studying and spending time learning and challenging themselves and trying to pass this exam. And I myself took like 2 to 3 months to study for this exam, and
Yeah.
I did graduate like with really good grades, especially in my engineering classes. But I just could not go take that exam without studying. Like there's no way. Like I had to study for it to be able to feel confident with the material and to be able to tackle it. So yeah, it's just something you kind of have to do, right? But yeah. Okay, so you said that sometimes you take breaks. So during those breaks, what do you do? Do you work out? Do you spend time with family? Like how do you recharge?
Like during the weekday or weekend or
Um,
both?
Both.
Okay, so in the weekdays, I think if I'm so in the morning, if I try to study like an hour and a half, then I'll probably watch like a YouTube video or like listen to some music,
Okay.
walk around a little, and then so hour and a half sessions doing that in the weekdays, and then probably when I get home, I probably watch like more YouTube videos, some TV shows, and then get back into studying because you're done from work and you just want to decompress a little bit. You
Mhm.
don't want to jump right into it. So taking my time to eat some good food and things like that. In the weekend, here is kind of cold out right now in
Okay.
Connecticut, so it's you can't like I like being outdoors a lot, but when it's this cold, you can't do too much. But when it was nice though, I would like try to bike. I like hiking, so I used to go on like these really big hikes with a couple of my friends. That was really important because there were some times I thought, oh, I shouldn't like go to that, but then I thought to myself, no, like doing that is what's gonna motivate me to study more. So I'm glad I did those, and yeah,
Yeah.
just hanging out with friends that really helped. So yeah, that's how I recharge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's important to take care of your physical and your mental state. It helps you recharge, and next time you start studying, you feel you have more energy and more relaxed, and you're ready to go. So that's how I usually feel when I take a break. So I think it's important that everybody takes a break. Okay. And for like because you like outdoors and stuff, maybe you should consider moving to California. It's
Yeah,
so nice here. Like right now it's so hot, and like you can always hike.
I'm sure. It's just the rent is probably 10 times what I'm paying here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta watch out for that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree with that. It is kind of crazy here. Okay. Now let's explore the day before you took your FE exam. Were you feeling ready, stressed? How were you feeling?
I had to take some time off of work. I think so. I took my exam on a Saturday, and on Thursday I had to take a little bit of time off, just to study a little bit more. But I wasn't really studying in terms of like, oh, just doing a lot of problems and encountering new ones. I was doing stuff I knew kind of and brushing up on one or two concepts that I just wanted to know before the exam. And I think the night before, yeah, I slept well, and it was weird. It was like stuff was like clicking into my head all of a sudden, like how stuff work about centroid and moment of inertia. So that was really cool, because I was stressing out over
Yeah.
that. And then in the morning, I just took it easy. I was just like walking around a lot, just not thinking about the exam too much. And yeah, then I went and took the exam. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Now let's dive into the day of your exam. How were you feeling when you first started the exam? Were you feeling stressed, or were you like calm and just ready to go?
In a weird way, I was calm and ready to go. I thought, I studied this much. I'm bound to do a little bit better than my past 2 times. So let's just leave it all out there and see what I get. Because at this point, there's no point in like stressing, and because I've done all I can almost. So let me just take it and see where it goes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, okay, so one of my students want to ask this question, Koi. So he's asking you, how did you manage your time during the FE, and how did you keep track of your time?
So a big thing, it's kind of probably against one of your videos you made about time management, is I made sure to really spend a lot of time on the first half.
Okay.
Because I knew that this was the half of the exam that I could get a lot of points in.
Okay.
So I wasn't managing my time really. I was just like, well, I knew I had to go about the problems, but I was like, I went, I did the first problems, and then I was like, let's go back and really make sure I know, like, I did these problems right. So, and then the second half, I didn't have as much time as I did on the first, but I wasn't like that worried because I knew I gave my all in the first half. And I did the second half in a manner where I thought was comfortable. And yeah, that's how I managed my time.
Okay. So you spent a little extra time in the morning. That gave you enough confidence to just be more relaxed for the afternoon session. And even if you did miss a couple questions, it didn't stress you out too much because you felt like you did really well in the morning. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how many hours would you say did you spend in the first session? Do you remember?
So if you were to split the exam in half, I think you should be doing like 2.5 hours for each session, right?
Something about that, yeah.
I think I probably spent like probably close to 3 hours on the first half, like hours, or even a little bit more, to be honest. And then the second half was however much long is that, like 2 hours and 20 minutes or 2 hours, or like 2 hours maybe. So, yeah, 2 hours for the second half. Yeah.
Okay. And so in the second session, when you started solving problems and stuff, did you have enough time to complete all of it in the 2 hours?
Well, the thing is, in the second half, there was a decent amount that I didn't know, right? So I was just honest with myself, like I can't do this, or this is going to take too much time. So I would flag a lot of stuff or skip a lot of stuff and get to the ones I really know and do those. And then at the end, there's a button where you can review everything that you flagged or missed. So I just, at the end, when I had time, I would do that.
Okay. And so in total, how many questions did you flag, and how many questions did you guess?
So the way I did it in my head was, if I know the question, I'm just gonna answer, right, after I do it out. But if there's a question that I know I can do, but it's just like for some reason I'm not getting it, I flagged it. And for something that I didn't know at all, I would just like skip it completely. And in the end, you can see like which ones you flagged and which ones you've completely missed. So I would first look over the ones that I flagged, because I know I have a better chance of doing those. And I would try my best, like, okay, what am I doing? Let me see the units, this and that, spend more time on those. And eventually I would kind of get them. I think I would like get them for the most part, like maybe half of them, right? So it might be surprising, but like first half, though, I had probably like only got like 20, 25, right? Like that I thought I knew, right? The rest were like flagged or skipped. And I just, at the end of the exam, I just went and was like, let me think about these. Let me see if the units are right. Let me see if I can do some like algebra in my calculator if I get a right answer. And for half of them, I was able to do it. So I probably got around like 37 right on the first, or 40 right on the first. Probably more. I don't know. And then second half, I did the same concept. Yeah, I followed the same method for the second half. Yeah.
Cool. So
I flagged a lot more in the second half.
I was going to say that. Yeah, how many?
I did a lot more. Geez, I probably knew only like really good, probably like 10, like 15. Okay. And the rest of them I flagged, and I was like, this is probably the best answer, or I just like guessed B or C for a lot of them. Yeah.
Okay, and then you picked B or C, that is just random, right? It just Those are the
Yeah,
letters you picked.
yeah. B. I just picked B for the first half, and then
Okay.
for the second half, I did B or C, just because my girlfriend was like, try C. It might be better for the second half, so that's what I did. It was random.
Well, it worked. You
Yeah.
passed. Okay, great. Now, when you finished the exam, were you feeling confident? I know you texted me after the exam, and you weren't sure. But did you really were you planning on passing, or you were actually not sure?
No, I was not planning on passing. I was
Okay.
like, I mean, I knew I did good on the first half, but I was fully expecting to see a diagnostic report. Like, when
Wow.
I log in. Yeah, I was like, I don't like. There was just some questions I was like, I'm not too sure of. I feel like that wasn't right. Only saving grace was like my first half. I was like, if I pass, it's because of that.
Yeah.
Uh, if I didn't, then oh well. Like I'll still. Like, I knew I found a good method
Mm-hmm.
to how I studied, so I knew I would eventually pass. But I was like, I'll just take whatever I got. That was my
Yeah.
attitude after.
Are there any areas that were particularly difficult than you wish you would have studied more?
I'll be honest, I wasn't like that good on method of section or like fast moving joints. I wish I had more time to do those. Probably dynamics, just like really knowing like some more complicated dynamics problems, like angular, circular, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably surveying. Yeah, surveying. I wish I had studied a bit more.
Okay.
And environmental engineering. Yeah.
Environmental. Transportation, no?
Well, the thing is transportation. I think, like I told you a little bit
Yeah.
before, it was I the problems that they gave me, I got right, where they were just like kind of horizontal curve, vertical curve, like those types of problems, which are on the thing itself. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that got me, and I don't know how I could have studied for it, was concepts for
Yeah.
transportation. Because there's not too many examples of conceptual transportation problems. Now, I'm a transportation engineer, but even there were some questions that were so conceptual. Like I'll probably learn this in my future,
Yeah.
but right now I just don't know how I would have known this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now for the FE Bytes afternoon session, I am trying to get as many conceptual questions for transportation and environmental. And so I just bought books specifically like for a book just for transportation and then a book just for environmental. And it really dives into those conceptual questions. So
Yeah, that would help your students a lot.
yeah, so I'm hoping to cover that. And that's why the afternoon session is taking a little longer than the morning session, a little harder. And it's more like, it goes to concepts and stuff. So I know you had a lot of concepts. You told me this before. Are there any concepts or topics that stuck out to you besides the ones that were in transportation?
Other than that, oh yeah, like conceptual questions in environmental engineering. There was
Okay.
a decent amount of those, and in construction, there was a lot of like terminology where I just wasn't comfortable with like just knowing.
I
Uh,
see.
yeah, but I think those questions are like conceptual. Like you just expect them to be conceptual. Think about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you know what you're getting for those,
Yeah.
and just do your best. Use your common sense. Ethics, there was some stuff that I was like iffy on, but just try your best on those.
Yeah. Now, are there any topics that were easier than you expected?
Probably no. I don't think anything was easier than I expected. No, everything was just as hard as I expected.
Really? Okay, not even like math or statics or
No, no.
no?
Actually, I will say though, statics was a little bit easier than I expected.
Okay.
Because there weren't a lot of problems. There was a lot of conceptual problems, and I think that helps for statics.
Okay.
You don't have to do like rigorous problems like that take up a lot of time. It's just either you know zero force or you don't.
Mhm.
Either you know like it's in tension or compression or you kind of don't. So
Mhm.
that saved me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And maybe because like you were really prepared for it because you actually took the statics course and I really dive into that
Yes.
topics. So maybe
Yeah.
you were prepared for it for those
Yeah.
questions. Yeah. Now, is there anything you would like to add just broadly or in general about a certain topic that you had questions on just
Math. Just make sure you know your calculus. For students that are still going to take it, like make sure you know your integrals, derivatives, like just back to basics. maybe crack open those old like calculus books and just make sure you know your sine, exponential problems, vector analysis. Make sure like this is a calculator I use, like a TI-36, and just making sure you know every function on your. So before I rescheduled my exam for the third, like my last time, I wasn't like knowing all the functions on here, like the dot product, cross product. So that's really, I was like, why don't I know this stuff? So when I finally took it, I mastered like everything on this calculator related to vectors and matrices. That really helps. Probably the statistics, yeah, just know every topic that they show on that like table of contents, because there can be confidence intervals. Engineering, economics, yeah, just make sure you know, like I think you had some really good problems. Like the what do you call it, expected value.
Yeah.
Definitely know like head laws, like really make sure you know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Your Manning equation, hydraulics, yeah, just really make sure you know that stuff. Surveying, make sure you know surveying, like leveling, just make, because those can be long problems sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they make it as long on the exam, but just making sure you know what you're doing so you don't mess up some little value like bearings, azimuths, like.
That was great what you shared with us.
No
Okay,
problem.
now lastly, I was hoping we could talk about your life after passing the FE exam. Did it impact your professional life?
Yeah, in fact, I was just relieved, like just
Yeah.
walking in knowing that I have that certification and I don't have to worry about anyone asking about it for the next like couple of years, until the PE exam.
Yeah.
That was just like a huge. It's like nobody was pressing me, but it was just on myself to pass. So
Yeah.
yeah, that and then yeah, I think it will be good just overall in the near
Yeah.
future.
That's great. And then I was gonna ask, do you feel any different now that you passed your FE? But you probably feel like confident and pretty.
Yeah, I feel great. It's like the best feeling.
Yeah, awesome. Now, when are you planning to take the PE?
Yeah, I think the requirement in Connecticut is you have to have your FE passed, and
Okay.
then you have to be working for 4 years.
Okay.
So as soon as that's done, yeah. So I think 1 year is almost done. So 3 more years.
Cool. And then, by then, hopefully, I have PE courses, and then,
Oh yeah, we'll see how far you're at. Yeah, that'd be
and
exciting.
the FE Bytes course, you get lifetime access. So once you start your PE, you can always review that material again. Because some of the
Oh,
materials you're gonna have on your PE. Some of
and
the,
you're always like updating it, right? So that's like, yeah, that's really
yeah,
good.
exactly, yeah. So okay. Now, do you have any closing remarks for engineers who are trying to pass the FE exam?
Yeah, sure. It's just keep trying. Like it sounds generic, but don't give up because you just don't know. Like just know what your weaknesses are, focus in on them, and really just get in the mindset and get comfortable. Come in terms of just studying for this exam, and in the long run, it will pay off because the feeling you get after passing is amazing. And like it's funny, like the more struggle that you go through to pass it, the better you feel at the end. So so you're just gonna feel that much better, once you pass.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You really shared some amazing insights with us, and I hope it's going to help a lot of students pass their FE exam. Even if you're still trying out there and you took it and you failed it a couple times, just don't feel discouraged, and you just gotta keep going. But yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ken.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Tushar has shared some amazing tips with us, and you can implement those tips while you're studying for your FE exam so you can pass your test as well. Also, make sure that you guys stay consistent with your studying. Try to study for like an hour or 2 hours a day, and during the weekend, you can always increase that time. Don't burn out. Make sure that you guys don't study too many hours. Like Tushar mentioned with us here at the beginning, he was studying for too many hours and then he really burned out and he felt discouraged. So you don't want to be in that situation. So just study a few hours every day, and then you can always increase that time during the weekend. Another thing Tushar has mentioned here is organization and studying one material at a time. I think that can be very helpful if you just study one material, and then once you're done with that material, then you jump to the next one, and don't don't be afraid to study your weaknesses and just really learn the material and understand the concepts. Also, make sure you guys have the right material and just try to stay focused during this whole time while you're studying for your test, and try to find that thing that really keeps you motivated. You're really going to need it while you're studying for the exam, because it can be hard sometimes studying during the weekend, especially after a long week, or just finding that motivation to keep going and to keep studying. So you have to find that one thing that's going to help you to stay motivated and stay consistent with your studying. If you guys are interested in my courses, you can check the link in the description below. A lot of students are enrolled in these classes and they love them. The courses really prepare you for what to expect on your FE exam. Also, Tushar has created a YouTube channel right after he passed his FE exam, so it would be great if you guys check out his channel and subscribe and just support him. You can check the link to his channel in the description below. If you guys like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos every week. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you stay consistent with your studying, and I will see you soon. À la prochaine.